Hi everyone, Nathan Hall here. Today's lesson we're going to look at some science terms. We're going to look at how they relate to energy and movement, which is a kind of thing Miss Giangiulio is talking about a lot in her science classes. To make it easy for everyone to understand, we are going to put this in terms of roller coasters. So one thing we'll talk about in the live class, who likes roller coasters? I hated them for a long time. Took me a while to realize that they were actually totally safe. And that's what we'll talk about this lesson, is why they are. We're going to look at how they work and what physics is, which is going to be what she talks about a lot. So we're going to look at some vocabulary relevant to movement. We're going to look at some real-world roller coaster examples of how this works. And we're going to look at idioms, like idioma. Idioms, small bits of language that mean one idea, one thing. So it's usually more than one word. So we're going to look at the science behind roller coasters. We'll describe some experiences with idioms. Here's some idioms right away. Heart pounding, fast paced, out of your seat. Did I do out of your seat? I don't think I did. Well, okay. So heart pounding, that's an idiom, very scary. You ever been on a roller coaster like this? You're straight up. Oh, geez, I'm high. Fast pace, before you know it, boom, you are fast. And you feel like you're going to, whoa, fly right out. But, as we'll talk about here, being on a roller coaster is actually about as safe as knitting with your grandmother, which I assume is very safe. I assume everyone here has a good, normal grandmother who doesn't stab them with knitting needles. So here's how they work. In a roller coaster, you might hear that click, click, clack, 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 clack. That's because of a chain connected to a motor. First hill, it's the tallest. Probably could have done more superlatives here, but that's okay. So when you go on a roller coaster, you always go up that one really long hill, and then after that, it's just a whole lot of up and down. And that's because it has gravitational potential. Talk about potential in a minute. Kind of like potente, like the word for power, which is a good way to remember it because it is about the power that's there, just not used. And here we're going to talk about work. Kind of like trabajar, but here we mean work like the ability an object has to move another object. That's work. So if your job involves pushing things, lifting things, moving things, it is work in a scientific sense too. So here's some words. Heart pounding. We'll talk about heart pounding experiences, something really scary. It's Halloween just passed, so you got some heart pounding haunted houses. Fast paced, moves very fast. Knitting, using yarn to make clothes. Gravity, makes things falls down. Motorized, with a motor in it. Here's the favorite one here is a motorized scooter. Potential, what something could become, what you want to be, what you have the potential to do. And work, how much one thing can move another thing with some force. So heavy weights, yep, that takes more work, more energy. So when you get in the first hill, gravity takes over. I'm going to make that bold. When it goes up the hill, the roller coaster goes down the hill, it goes much faster. It says here about 30 feet a second, per second squared. Okay, so really, really fast. And it accelerates. Greek verb. Accelerate means move fast. And the energy that could be there, the potential energy, it's now used. It becomes kinetic. So basically, it goes from stored energy, the potential energy, to moving energy, the kinetic energy. So kinetic, that's the motion. Potential, it could move. Give it time. And the weight of the roller coaster, that keeps you going. So speeds up, goes faster. Kinetic energy comes from motion, like this. Kinetic energy, potential energy. But when it falls, woo, becomes kinetic energy. Stay away from those. Those can kill you. So you may have heard of a fellow named Isaac Newton. This is the guy who explained gravity. And he figured out another concept that you'll hear in your science class, inertia. Basically, you hit something, it stays in motion until it's stopped. And that's how roller coasters work. They stay in motion until they're stopped. But two things are going to stop it. One will be friction. Friction is energy created when things rub together. Rub your hands, get a little hot, friction. And that actually does take some energy away from the speed. And air resistance. The air slows it down a little bit. By the time it's done, it loses a lot of its energy, and then a little bit of brakes going on, stops perfectly. But otherwise, it's all energy. So some parts of the ride, you'll feel like you're being pushed up. Other parts, pushed down. So the two forces kind of keep you in your seat. And so inertia, if you've ever seen these, great example. Clack, 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 clack. Energy moves through here. It loses a little bit each time. That's why at some point this will stop. Friction. So when you strike a match, it gets a little bit hot, and the chemical there they use on the match heads burns real fast. Air resistance, like a parachute. Parachutes are pretty light, but they give a lot of resistance to the air. They hold a little pocket of it. That slows you down. And a few last words we'll talk about in the class. Wild ride, fun but crazy time. We'll talk about being pushed up and pushed down on airplanes. Vocabulary is down below. This will show up again on vocabulary quizzes and tests. Any questions, come to live class or BBIM me. Adios for now.